everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Joanne and this is going to be a little bit different from anything else that I've posted on this channel before. I always want to be 100% honest with you in terms of anything from first impressions to reviews and recommendations and those sorts of things. So instead of quietly going and returning this bag, I thought it'd be helpful for me to share with you my experience. So without further ado, the bag that I purchased was of course the Coach Quilted Tabby 20 in the color buff. This has been on my wish list for some time now and I am still in love with the bag. I think it is beautiful. The color is really nice as well. And I do personally love silver hardware, so everything kind of checked out. However, my experience in terms of receiving this bag and its packaging definitely left a really sour taste in my mouth, and there were some also additional issues with this bag. So first off, this is not included in really any sales. They seem to have removed it from even like if you sign up for their text messages and get a percentage off, you can no longer have that applied to any of the quilted tabbies at least. I'm not sure if you can do it on other tabbies, but this one in particular for sure is not included. And it is of course not included in their current 25% off sale select items. And yeah, so this is full price still, and I did end up picking this up directly from the website, and the reason when I did was because there was a 15% cashback on Rakuten, which is usually the highest that it goes, and so I figured why not. It is essentially kind of like 15% off of the bag, and I also had a gift card that I wanted to use. It arrived really quickly. It was shipped out of, I think, their warehouse in Ontario, which is also the same place that you send returns to, so I figured that was kind of links well to my suspicion that this was a returned bag. I think it took maybe about 2 days and then it was at my doorstep, so very fast. However, when it arrived, it came in a bubble mailer. And so in the past, whenever I purchased something from the Coach boutique, it has always come in a box and not necessarily, you know, completely wrapped up in its factory wrapping or anything like that, but it's usually nicely placed in a box of some sort, has nice packaging and wrapping and all those sorts of things, and a receipt. In this case, this came with zero packaging at all, like zero wrapping or anything. The most was like this little foam wrap around the chain on the hang tag, and aside from that, it did have some stuffing, as you can see, on the inside, but that was it. Everything else was completely just open. All it had was one thin piece of tissue paper wrapped around it, secured with a piece of tape, and then it was stuck in a plastic bag, and then it was literally stuffed inside a bubble mailer just big enough to fit this bag. And there was absolutely nothing else cushioning it or anything. So that was really, really unpleasant. There was nothing else in the bubble mailer. There was no receipt. There was no nothing. It did come with its dust bag. It was folded up and placed inside of the bag. So yeah, there was really not a lot of protection from the bag and everything else. So that was super disappointing. And yeah. And so that definitely played into my suspicion of it being a return, and there's various other things with this bag that I will share with you in a moment, which makes me believe that someone would return this, and I am therefore also returning this. But first and foremost, the tag is really weird. It has like two of these like plastic attachments, so super weird. Also, it's printed not so great. As you can see, it's just weird. I don't know. It just is very different from anything that I've ever had from Coach. And of course, aside from it not having absolutely any wrapping on the straps or anything, there's other issues with this bag. So overall, it's almost like, I don't want to say dirt, but it's just not 100% clean or like nice looking. I feel like there's a little bit of graying here and there, which possibly is from like, I wouldn't say color transfer, but again, maybe some like dirt or so, especially I think on the leather covered clasp. And that does make me worry about its wear down the line anyways, if I were to have kept this bag, for instance. And aside from that, I would say another thing that I noticed was the stitching was not great. It wasn't really aligned, and there were some other issues. First, of course, it does have a little bit of this pulling action right here that other people have pointed out. And normally I am not picky at all with my bags really, and so that probably wouldn't have bothered me too much, but I just want to point that out, that mine also does have some of that pulling right here and near the tab right there. And really the first thing that I noticed was that it wasn't really even. So you can see here's the seam, it kind of goes down nicely and straight, but then on the other side it isn't. It goes a little bit narrow here and then it widens out, and these two parts are not the same, which that to me, like the symmetry, that does bother me a little bit. So there was that. And I think the biggest issue I found on the stitching for the front was that right here, as you can see, it just kind of curves inwards, and overall, as you can see, it is just not very aligned. It's not terrible, but I think that one really bothered me quite a bit. On the back side, it also does have some alignment issues and also a lot of kind of like pulling or something right here on that side. But as you can see, it is definitely not perfectly aligned. As you can see here, especially, it is not. And if it's not perfectly aligned, again, I'm normally not too fussed about it, but that was just something on top of everything that started to really annoy me with this particular bag. And aside from that, there was of course nothing protecting the clasp right here. So it definitely has already some scratches and dings on the opening, and of course I've never used the bag, so that was kind of irritating to me as well. And because they did just stuff the straps in here, there's some slight indents. I don't know if you can see on the camera, but it's just some ever so slight indents there already, and of course I haven't used this bag yet. And then another thing that I did notice on the opening right here, just on the corner, it seems to be like, I don't want to say a hole, but you can see right there, it is kind of like a hole, like it's being pulled, and so you can kind of see inside, and that is very unpleasant to me as well. So that is a really quick rundown in terms of just right off the bat some issues that I noticed specifically with this bag. And so yeah, overall I'm not very happy with this at all, and like I mentioned, I am planning to return this bag, and I don't plan to exchange it. I think I'll just leave it out of my collection. I know it's super popular and I do still love the look of it, but just with everything, maybe it is a little bit too delicate for me, I'm not sure. And just my overall experience is really negative. So I am just going to do a flat out return, no exchange for this. And perhaps in the future, if this does end up in the Coach outlet, or if it goes on a substantial sale, I may then reconsider and pick this up, but I think for full price, I'm just not really happy with it. Another thing that I just wanted to comment, because I do have a couple other bags from Coach that either are quilted or have also this chain strap. So they're quite similar in the build. So I also have the Coach Madison 16 as well as the Coach Parker 18. So I have them right here. So this of course is the Coach Madison 16, and it is also quilted. It's just kind of a vertical quilting though. I absolutely adore this bag. It is a little bit on the small side for me, so I did consider selling this, but I am keeping this in my collection. But I noticed on this one for the grommets, it's identical to my Coach Parker 18 in the grommets, and I really appreciate the fact that it has the Coach stamping on pretty much all of the hardware. The C, of course, is just the C, so it's not there. But of course, on all the clasps and everything, including the grommets, there is the Coach stamping. And that remains true. It's the same grommets as well, but for the Coach Parker 18. So as you can see, this also does have the Coach stamping on that. And overall, I love the quality of both of those bags. And I thought it was interesting that the grommets were a little bit different, which I'm not complaining. However, I really would have appreciated if there was some sort of Coach stamping on them. But as you can see, they are just plain grommets. There is just nothing on those. So just a couple little attention to details that I thought was a little bit disappointing. Oh, and then one other thing I just noticed on the Coach hang tag, there seems to be kind of a splotch of the glazing that has gone on it, and it's overall just a little bit, again, kind of like dirty. Anyways, that kind of all concluded to me in my head that this was likely a return that was then just sent to me, which is really disappointing. And regardless if it was a return, I probably wouldn't have mind it at all, even if it was a returned bag, if I didn't have all these issues that I noticed on this bag, and especially if it came as I normally expect it to from Coach and not just stuffed inside a bubble mailer. But yeah, sadly, this is definitely going back and it's going to be returned. But if you have any other questions, feel free to leave those down in the comment section and I'll do my best to answer them. What is your experience with Coach? I haven't had any issues in terms of quality until I would say the last year or so. And maybe I have been lucky in not receiving anything with defects or those sorts of things. I had one other thing that I purchased last year. It was an SLG that came packaged also terribly. And I think it did actually come from that Ontario location. And I think it's like that. It's the same address as their returns, I believe. So maybe it is just that warehouse. I don't know, but very disappointing. But that is all for me for this video. Again, I hope it was helpful or insightful, but if you have had a negative experience or anything that you'd like to share, please, I'd love to hear about it. But aside from that, thank you as always for taking the time to watch my videos, and especially for subscribing. I really appreciate it. But aside from that, I hope you all have a wonderful day and I'll see you in the next video.